data science, first of all, from last maybe 20 years, you're working from that long. How
That's
much,
right.
how much has it come along, when it was there before, and maybe you were doing statistics, and then how far the field has come, how much is it impactful now? We all know, but we want to know the history, we want to know how it started. It's always great to know that, how it started, where it was, and how is it coming along the way.
Well, it's not easy. Initially, when I actually told people that I want to actually become a statistician and then I practice statistics, everyone thinks that I'm actually joking. And they just basically say, so what's the difference between you and a fortune teller on the street? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's actually what they say. And when they actually, well, last time was Jobs DB and Job Street. And so when I actually go there to search for jobs, it returns nothing. So I type statistics and return nothing. And I actually remember I was actually going for an interview with a headhunter, and the headhunter was saying that, are you even sure that statistics is something that people will look at in future? I said, well, it's a field that is largely ignored by people. Everyone is collecting information with the large abundance of technological advancement, but then no one is looking at the numbers. So then why are they collecting the numbers for? So I do see that future there.
How long back it was, the story that you just mentioned, that even headhunters were not sure of it.
That's when it was 2005. Yeah.
Okay.
But back. even before 2005, when I was in junior college, that's in when is it? That's in 1998 or 1999, something like before I go army. So that's actually the time where I was actually telling my junior college lecturers as well. I said that it's exciting that you can actually use numbers to actually make decisions. It will be actually a very powerful tool if we use it to help companies in the future. So they say that, look, this is actually just a subject, statistics. It's nothing, right? So I'm not sure even if this is applicable in the future world, but you can try. That's why they say you can try. Normally, researchers during that time, they are going to work for governments. They're going to be working in lab and all those things. You want to work it as a corporate work tool to advise people on business using numbers. It actually sounds a bit far-fetched. That's what people always tell me.
So how did you survive those years? How I can believe that it was tough because there were not many jobs available. But you still had lots of love towards just statistics and crunching data to know what maybe the future holds. And how did you survive those years? How was it?
My first job, I have to actually brew my own coffee. I have to actually mop the floor as well. I'm the only employee in the company together with an accountant. My CEO actually come in maybe say once a quarter. My direct supervisor actually comes in once a month. So they are actually from UK, and that's why I didn't get to join a local company back then. I joined an overseas company, and that time they're using SPSS, and then it's not easy because the pay isn't that fantastic. And I still recall that my first paycheck, because the bank processing came a bit late, I have to actually borrow money from my friend to eat as well for lunch. So yeah, that's actually how bad it is. They call it the AI winter back then. Yeah.
And which year was that? It was like mid 2005 to like 2010, 12.
Because around I think 2005-ish to 2006, like that. So that's actually where I found my first job. that job was actually to do credit scorecard, and I was literally there to actually learn, not to actually contribute. Life is actually very tough because back then R is actually my first open source coding, but we would teach a variety of software back in university. So we were taught SPSS, SAS. R was actually introduced. We try also hands-on. SAS seems to be slightly more challenging. R seems to be actually more easy to widely available to us, because SAS we need to actually travel to the lab to actually use it. It's not a free software that the university need to buy it. So because R is actually, we can use it at our home and all those things. So R is widely used. SPSS is also a paid software, so we have to travel to the lab to use it if we want to. But amongst the three software, I feel more comfortable in R that time. But it's a cultural clash, because when I was in my first job, everyone needs to actually learn SPSS. Yeah, and then suddenly, okay, from coding, I need to actually use click, drag, and drop. It wasn't actually very comfortable. And but then I was actually told that not just click, drag, and drop. I want to actually need to learn the coding part, because I need to train the bankers. That's even more. Imagine a fresh grad need to actually train experienced bankers. That's actually not easy. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you build something cool in R at that time? Something, which you're like, at times, when we used to build things, we used to be like really proud of something which we built at the start. When we really found something, it gives us inspiration that, okay, maybe when we start with something, maybe we were starting with R, that we came out with something which is highly inspirational. We feel that, no, okay, that's the world. There's nothing beyond that, and we can build something great out of it. Did you build something great with R at that time?
Well, anything that we want to actually build that is cool looking and then inspirational will be dashed by our lecturers. Our lecturers will say, look, even if you actually build something great and fantastic, if it is actually not roll out and earn money, it is just actually a piece of code. Yeah. So yes, you can actually build something nice, but really, if you don't deploy it and then see whether it works in actual practical sense, it is really just a piece of code that makes
exactly
nothing. Yeah.
It becomes another piece of those books, which we don't read. We just maybe made few chapters and we don't use it anymore.
I always call it an expensive thesis lying on the laptop if it is not deployed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recently, there has been many news about AI, and many a times, people have said that it was because of data science, data not built properly, the AI is failed. So data is, it shows how crucial the data is. It shows how important data crunching and statistics is. So, and maybe, those engineers who were building it were not that good in it. You come from a statistician background, right? And many times there have been engineers who were maybe doing something and they started learning Python, and they started building data science and this and that. What's the difference between coming from a statistician background and maybe from a pure algorithm background and coming in between? Because it becomes costly, as you mentioned. It becomes highly costly that we build something over a long period of time. We crunch lots of data, but then we get to know the data hit the roadblock. It's not giving the right answers, which we really needed.
Yeah. So you see, I'm just going to actually talk about tools, software, right? So in terms of planning for a data science project, tools is actually something that, yes, we talk about it, but we don't actually put high priority. But yes, okay, we have a plan of end in mind. That is, so which tools are we going to actually connect the pipeline and then use eventually? But the discussion if you talk to a businessman, they will always want to actually understand one thing: can it earn money, and how do we actually deploy it? What's the cost? How long will you take? Right. So then we always talk about a business objective first. Then when we talk about a business objective, the things that come along to discuss is actually the data that comes with it. I always actually tell people that you want to actually do a lobster salad, and you don't have lobster in the fridge, which is your database. It's not going to be a lobster salad. It's just going to be a salad. Yeah. So then, yes, you can actually think about fanciful business objective to resolve. But then if you don't have the right information to actually solve the business objective, it is just actually pure discussion, right? So yes, we have business objective. Then the next thing we talk about is the data, what data you have. And then we actually talk about methodology, what is the blueprint that we actually sit down and discuss and plan. So what is actually the blueprint that you want to actually use? What is the methodologies that you want to use? What kind of data that you have that actually aligns with the methodologies you're going to use? And then you talk about the tools. Of course, along the discussion, you actually have talk about, so you're going to use SQL. Where is the data sitting? Is it sitting on your server or my server? Is it actually going to be on your server, translate to my server? Because I'm a vendor, I don't actually have your server. So how is it going to be transferred over? And then things like that. So how is the pipeline going to be built? So this is actually the entire gist of discussion. Then what is actually the view of a statistician versus someone who don't learn statistics well enough? I always say this. I always actually tell people like that. That is longitudinal versus cross-sectional data. You know, right? Longitudinal, cross-section. Longitudinal data are data that is actually consistently measured, like stock market. Those are longitudinal. Where we actually look at seasonal patterns and all those things. Cross-section data is which freeze 2 years, and then we actually look at it, and based on the freeze 2 year, we actually do prediction. This is actually what we apply mostly in the market. Right. There are also people doing forecasts, which is longitudinal. There's people doing prediction, which is cross-sectional. And then from that itself, we actually look at, okay, so if most of the time we're doing cross-sectional. So cross-sectional data, what kind of data do you have? Scale, ordinal, nominal. So scale category is actually a main branch. Category split into ordinal and nominal. And then from that itself, we will decide. So, okay, if it's a scale versus scale, is it actually Pearson chi-square or Spearman? Pearson correlation or Spearman correlation? Scale versus scale. If it is actually a categorical, is it actually a Pearson chi-square or is it a Fisher's exact? Right? We actually even take a look at whether it's parametric or non-parametric. And then we actually look at if it's a scale versus a categorical, are we looking at two independent sample t-tests or ANOVA? Because if the categorical has more than 3 categories, then we're looking at ANOVA. So then up to now, we're still discussing about bivariate. So of course, the planning likewise, we're looking at, is it univariate, single variable? Then we look at whether it's mean, mode, median, and things like that, or bivariate, which is 2 variables, or multivariable, which is then we look at what everyone is interested in looking at these days. Neural network, XGBoost, or whatever. But then we don't straight away go into multivariable analysis. We will look at univariate and bivariate because this is actually the foundation of cleaning the data. If you don't know that data, what it has, then how do we proceed? Even the data itself, some of the, let's say shops, I'm dealing with luxury fashion. Some of the shops, the client actually says, hey, look, Jarrod, we don't want this shop because those are old shops. Then I will ask them, these old shops, which one do you still want to keep to save the customers for strategic planning? Then when you save them, then you can actually decide, okay, we will take them out for future model prediction usage. But then at the moment we keep them, but then after 2 years later or 1 year later, we rebuild to the model, we will take them out from the analysis itself. So these are actually data cleaning that incorporates also the business people inside, which actually make them understand, oh, so I have going to make a lobster salad. This is my ingredient. Do I have a lobster and a salad? Then we actually decide, so what are we going to achieve based on business objective itself? So you see, the world of a statistician view is different from maybe say a non-statistics person, how they view it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's very, very important for anyone who is doing, is into data science from a programming background to know about statistics a lot, to dig deep into it and, really know that, because as you mentioned, that predictive data science takes a long period of time to build, like a year or two. So they need to know where to clean the data, where to actually know how it's going to result. So the failures that we saw were by maybe the ones who didn't clean the data or didn't know that after 2 years they got to know that data is not returning anything. So predictive data. What are some of the applications which you think maybe have not been built yet, and in predictive data science, and you really want to know something like maybe we want to know when earthquake is coming, and we have not been able to find it as of yet.
Before we go into that, let me talk about the failure that I've come across. All right.
Okay.
So
that would be great.
So I have come across a few failure. Like what you say, the most basic failure are ones that use the wrong way to clean the data. For example, one of my if someone is going for my interview, they at least will know this. If they listen to this podcast, they'll know this answer. So basically, I will actually ask, so for a transactional column, do you actually replace the missing with mean? Yeah. So a lot of people will just say, yeah, why not? We replace the missing with mean. Yeah. But then that is actually looks like a straightforward question that a lot of online courses out there will just teach you that for the missing, for transaction column, you replace with mean. But then you didn't actually ask me the context of the data. So the context of the data is that in the situation of e-commerce these days, some of the data actually is like that. So row 1 is I buy 10 socks, right? Row number 2, the stock over there says that, oh, we have only 1 socks left. So then I will refund you 9 socks. So the first row is 10 socks. The second row is -9. So -9 socks. So it's 10 times $1. So this is actually a first transaction I give $10. The second transaction that is appearing in that data itself is -9, right? So then if you see a lot of negative inside the data, that column itself transaction, you're going to actually use the mean to replace the missing. What will happen is that you're going to incorporate all the negative refunds and being calculated as the mean. And that actually causes the data to be spoiled. Yeah, the data will be spoiled. Yeah. So the missing will be suddenly have means. If worse, the means will be negative. Right? So I mean, it might not have a negative because there's a lot of people who will buy in bulk. I mean, you won't have a lot of refunds. You have more on spending, right? But then it's a silent killer because you will not actually raise any error. And then when you actually if you actually see some of the models out there, you might want to actually predict whether the person is a high spender or not. That's it. The model is gone. This is cleaning error. All right. And it doesn't come with error. It doesn't come with warning. It just actually gives you something like that. All right. And there's another thing is that in Python itself, I noticed that there was this time I actually extract out the year, month, day to actually do proper date selection. Right. So what happened is that I noticed that for some reason Python actually select my month and the day in the wrong manner. So sometimes it select the day, sometimes it select the month. If you don't actually do it changing to date and stating the format properly, it might actually cause this issue sometimes. And it doesn't actually give you an error or warning. There's actually a discussion on Stack Overflow And then it's actually pretty eerie that this actually doesn't come out with an error warning. and imagine that it doesn't come out error warning, and then someone actually just, okay, use year, month, and then it gives me that date to do the selection. That's it. The data selection is gone, right? This is actually data issue. I met someone that actually comes with a blueprint issue. There are two people who come up with blueprint issue. The first one told me that he wants to use, he said that I'm not a data scientist, so I won't understand what he's saying. So he just want to use conditional probability as predictor to actually do neural network. Then I was actually asking me, why do you use conditional probability as your predictors, which is business factors, to measure an outcome for your neural network? What's the strong reason behind using that? Because if your conditional probability actually have certain calculation error, it will actually introduce an additional error into a neural network itself, which is some sort of like a nested error, you know? So I was asking him, so why neural network? Then he said, oh, because it's cool. That's the last reason that I would actually expect someone who told me that. Oh, because it's cool. So you don't know what is it. I'm not a data scientist. So I told him, I'm a data scientist, actually work in this line for around 10 plus years. So I was asking him again, can I know the reason why you use conditional probability on neural network? Then he said, I don't know. You see, this is actually poor blueprint planning. So I asked him, the next question is, do you have difficulties in explaining what you're trying to do to your line manager? He said, Jarrod, how do you know that? I was saying, because your project leads to nowhere. You can't tell the CEO that I'm going to use a conditional probability as your business factor. He won't understand. If you actually tell him that, oh, I'm going to use income, or maybe say a demographic of the person, at least he understands. These are business factors that is so basic that anyone will understand. Then can we actually predict the person is high spender or not? Then he can understand as well. So then you see, this is blueprint issue, right? This is one blueprint issue. The other blueprint issue, this is actually something that is very interesting. So this guy was trying to actually use travel data to predict purchase information. So he's using I can't say which company, but that company actually do cab travel, all right? Cab renting travel. There's a few, so I don't want to name which one. And then he used those information to predict their e-commerce sale. I know which company it is because I have a connection. You see, connection is very important for data scientists. So I have a connection that actually told me that, there's actually this company that's doing IPO at the moment. Wow, IPO. And then he's actually doing CAP information, and then they're trying to actually link with e-commerce. Oh, okay. So this guy come in and told me, Jarrod, look, I'm trying to actually do, CAP information, the travel, to actually predict e-commerce usage. And say, okay, so what do you get? Then he said, well, my linear regression, which is a method to actually pre-know that what is actually the person spending for next month based on several business factors. Now, what happened on his model is nothing comes up. So there's no business factors that comes up as important to measure the outcome, which is the person spending. This is way weird. I never actually, within my past 10 years, see something like that. So I was actually thinking very long for this one. I sit at a cafe. I was thinking why I didn't touch the data, because I need him to actually engage us first before I can say anything. But he didn't engage, so I didn't say anything. So he see the video on this one. So yeah, he has his answer now. It's basically I was telling my CEO that it is using. I'm just going to give an analogy on this one. Using McDonald's customer satisfaction to actually predict KFC customers satisfaction. So using McDonald's data to predict KFC satisfaction. So one is looking for a burger, one is looking for a chicken. So
Exactly.
so then I was telling my boss, you see, this is actually important. Why we have to actually plan the blueprint actually in a nice manner, because if you don't do it properly, that's it. The model is. And I was asking that guy, do you have 6 months to redo the entire project? So he said no. He said, can you help me? Yeah.
So yeah, as you mentioned, it's very, very important to make the right blueprint. You have to know, that's the first thing I learned out of you, when you mentioned that, the second thing I learned out of from you is to tell the stakeholders, maybe they don't know the words that, maybe people in AI and data science use.
Yep.
So you have to tell them, words which are not jargon,
Yes.
which are like common words. So that's very, very important, because at times you'll go to them, we have worked with lots of clients ourselves, and at times when we speak on things and tools and our own language, they just say yes to everything. But ultimately, when we talk to them later, they said, oh, we said yes because we didn't want to tell you that we don't know about it. So that's very, very important. So then ultimately I also started speaking to clients in their own layman terms, because that's very important. You mentioned that how people are traveling in a cab. The data scientist wanted to know, or this company wanted to know, how would they spend on e-commerce. I could not connect the dots. I could not connect the dots. So maybe they thought it was something cool or something, to come out with it, but I could not. So
as well. There's actually I can share with you as well that there are 2 more blueprint failure. So one of the blueprint failure, that another one that I've actually think of, that is this guy came to me. He said, Jarrod, I want to actually use a way to collect the data of everyone secretly when they enter the building.
When they enter the building.
Yes, when they enter the building, their data will be secretly collected and then stored.
What kind of data?
Like what you surf on the phone, who you are, based on what you surf on your phone, and all those information, what you work as. But that's actually very creepy, in the sense that they were saying that what is the chance of us being invested on? That's what actually they asked me. So I actually asked them 2 questions. Number 1, can I have a look at the data? So the data is key breach. So I was asking them, before I look at the data, I already checked their background. They are not data scientists. They are not statisticians. They are not even a data professional, not even a cloud engineer or whatever. So they are military guys. So their past occupation was military. So I was actually asking them, so what is this data and how you use it? They say, oh no, look, Jarrod, let's look at the big background. The big background is that we do the counting of the money, and then you is the guy that comes in to actually do something about the data. That's why we want you to come into this project. So this is the first thing I asked them, and they give me this kind of answer. The second question I asked them is, so how are you going to sell this data? Because you see, selling this data, it actually goes in the gray area of PDPA, data protection.
Yeah, surveillance,
Yeah, and then so then if we were to sell this data, it just means that some merchants, we will also have to tell them how they're going to use it, because these data are not their direct customer. They don't have a customer ID inside the collected data that can be matched back to the database of a merchant directly. So how are they going to push out information to this customer without alarming them? No way. And then if the customer felt creepy, they might actually make a police report. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. But somehow there are some companies, that we use their platforms. They know where we are going. They know what we are doing.
But they have a clause inside that says that, look, we are collecting your data for what kind of purpose. They will say that inside their clause. And there's another one that is actually of a failure. this is actually a very interesting one. That is, he wants to use 10 profile to predict the world. I was like, what? 10 profile to predict the world? Are you sure? Then I say, yeah, that is his MVP. And he asked, can you invest in my company? Then I was saying, that's how are you going to make this work? You're not going to actually use 10 profile to predict the world. That's not going to work out. So if you actually, well, you are a CEO as well. You meet around with a lot of startups, and some of the startups, the techs, are really just not actually thinking what the market lacks. They're just actually thinking what the data can actually be pushed out to do to the market. So it's just like actually what Steve Jobs say, that he actually, there's actually this very famous video before, that he says that I don't look from the data up, I look from the market down. From the market,
Exactly.
I understand what's lacking, and then we actually see what kind of data fits to answer the value. So this is actually the same thing which I follow, which is business objective, what kind of data we have, and then what kind of methodologies can we fit into it. Then we slowly move down into what kind of tech stacks can we actually use it to apply. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I've worked with, from last 13 years, over 13 years, I've worked with many entrepreneurs. I've been fortunate enough to make products for them. Some of them became so big. The one common thing which I really found out, and the products that became really successful, these entrepreneurs knew the product market fit. They knew who they are targeting. They knew exactly what is the problem and what they are solving. They knew it exactly. So, but some of the ones which I see that they're sometimes confused, or they sometimes fail in their endeavors, is the ones who just want to make something very fast, who just want to make something which maybe make something very cool which maybe others have made, and then throw it out in the market, and then later on see if it would hit or not. However, I always, whenever I talk to them, I always tell them that you make products for humans. When you're making products for humans, you have to understand their psychology, you have to understand about their market, you have to understand what drives them, what drives their actions. So in a way, a market in Singapore might be very different than a market in India. In India, people look at many different things, how maybe people in Singapore look at. So a same kind of product maybe might not work at both the places, while at the same time many would. So you're right in saying that many people do not look at product market fit. They don't understand. They want to build something very cool, and it's where a lot of money is lost by many entrepreneurs in making something cool and then seeing maybe it would work or maybe it would not, while they might have spent a lot of time on maybe finding product market fit, maybe just thinking thoroughly and making the flows that, okay, this is how it's going to run, this is targeting human behaviors this way, and that's how people are going to use it, because I'm going to use it. That's very important.
Yeah, and this is actually the some of the because I'm actually in a secretary general. I'm a secretary general of Singapore Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So there was a period of time where I'm assigned as a tech council member, which is to actually help tech startup to actually prepare their presentation for investors, because we do have investors to actually come in to do investing for startup when they actually do the presentation, and then you're right. Some of the startup are interesting in the sense that they just actually want to make a very interesting product, gain subscribers, and then get more investors, and then go up the series from A to B to C, and then IPO or whatever, and then they will sell it away. They don't care whether the product works or not. That's how some of their thinking is like.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but yeah, that's there. Sometimes it's about I want to make quick money in next 3 years. while a company or a product is made for like at least 5 to 10 years, if you have to make something substantial. But when the founders have made it, they fall in love with it so much that they keep on building it. So yeah, yeah. Can you describe your role in Singapore Chamber of Commerce? What exactly is this, as you briefly mentioned?
So Singapore Chamber is actually a place where startups actually can come in to actually exchange their business contacts and all those things to actually try to gain more networks along the way. And also from the president's arrangement, they get to actually present to investors. And then, of course, if this actually goes up, investors are actually interested, then what happened is that the president might actually ask them, say that, would you be interested to, consider China market? And he has the capability to actually link up with China businessmen as well. So I'm actually the Secretary General, which just actually brings in startups or any businessman that is actually interested to actually try to actually know more people first, and then see whether there's a chance to actually do collaboration or things like that. Yeah.
That's great. Great to hear that. Are you, looking out to like reach out to India as well? Maybe Indian market is growing as well, and people might want to expand to Indian market as well. Is it in the plans in future?
Yeah, it's in the plan. So we do have connections with overseas chambers as well. And then when they are actually in Singapore, we do actually hold events as well for them to actually interact with local businesses, or maybe say if they are actually interested to set up business here, my president actually have the channel to actually link them to the correct channels of the government, the local government here, to actually help them to set up the business here as well. Yeah,
that's great. So maybe Indian businesses would listen to this, and maybe we'll gain out of it. Great. Yeah, moving along. Much data science, as we discussed. What do you think needs to be solved? What do you think needs to be solved? Maybe, and especially in predictive data science, as we mentioned, like, as I asked you before as well, and you said that, you'll answer it before. Maybe, do you think that we can calculate when earthquake is coming? What kind of problems you want to solve?
Well, maybe with the continuous usage of AI, what concerns me is actually the security part. So the security part of AI needs to be consistently addressed along the way, because let's talk about ChatGPT. When the recent Samsung incident where they accidentally leak out the data out. So I mean, it's actually just one part of it. That is that's my daughter. So that's actually one part of it. That is, leakage is common, but then we don't even know that when we use it, whether our own information is leaked out. And then if we actually address this, that is AI with cybersecurity in tech to do prediction and all those things, this might actually happen. This already happened now. It will actually be more and more talks about this in maybe say the years to come. My brother, who is actually in cybersecurity field, he's actually, if you know this paper called Global Security Expert, you know this paper? Global Security Expert certification. So basically, everyone starts with Certified Ethical Hacker. Yeah, CEH. Yeah. So when you actually go along the study, you go all the way up to Global Security Expert, and he write white paper on cybersecurity. So he did told me that he did tell me that he wants to actually do prediction on machine learning to actually profile the different types of hacking and all those things. But he did share with me as well that it is important to actually know statistics, which is what he likes. Which is what he likes.
It is.
Yeah.
So is he starting to learn it? He has.
Yeah, he is. because he is actually incorporating some of the, because data science has, we know that data science has 5 pillars, right? 5 pillars. So the 5 pillars are numeric, text, image, video, vocal. You can't run away from these 5 pillars. So Siri is Siri is vocal plus text, for example. Bixby is the one as well, which is vocal plus text. Then you go and source things for you online. Someone that is on that airport to actually identify a criminal will be using maybe say video plus image. Yeah. So I'm actually heavily into numeric. That's why statistics is very important in numeric. Of course, the rest, somewhere down the road, the statistics might be important as well, because you need to clean data and actually do all those things. And the URL and app browsing prediction model that I actually done, it heavily uses text plus numeric as well. Yeah. So then these are actually the things that I see that will come in the near future, which is based on these 5 pillars, and then to also look at the concerns of the usage of AI and how do we actually use cybersecurity with prediction on the AI pipelines that we already built in the market.
Right. That sounds great. I think few airports are already doing it, if I'm not mistaken.
There are people doing it. Yes.
They're already doing these kinds of things. So, we have to, that the possibilities in AI are a lot. So, and so is, there are few, there's this question in people's mind nowadays. They ask me, they will ask you as well. Will their jobs be hampered because of AI? What do you feel about that? And what do you tell them?
If their jobs will be hampered because of AI, why didn't Google actually cause people to lose jobs? Google starts many years ago. How come Yahoo didn't actually cause people to lose jobs? Right?
It actually increased jobs.
So powerful. Yeah. Yeah, so the search engine is so powerful, Google as well. The search engine is so powerful. I mean, then why then do you think chat will actually cause people to lose job? I don't think so. Will it replace data scientists? No. Why? Because you see, if you actually try to ask chat, can you actually help me predict based on my database who is actually going to be the buyer or not? Can you load the entire database into chat? Don't think so. I don't think the company policy will allow you to load the entire database into chat as well, right? So then how can a businessman actually say, okay, let's fire the data scientists and then we just load our database into chat, and then it pops out all the products that we can recommend to the customers and also to predict which one will be our buyer? Not possible. Yeah, but chat is a great tool for data scientists.
Yeah, I mean, not just for data scientists. The question I'm asking is from many people who are maybe into writers, they are into graphic designing and few other engineering fields. They mentioned that, would our jobs be gone because the companies may not be requiring many people? But my answer is always that, if anyone who is creative enough, these things cannot replace them. Maybe there would be more demand of that. Maybe we'll use these things. Maybe we'll use ChatGPT to give us, if somebody's going to write an article, just for example, on data science. So we'll take a good amount of help and we write a much bigger article than we could have written. We would write a much valuable article than maybe possibly we could not have, because we had time limit and we have limit of our knowledge to write an article. So we'll take help from these and we'll do something bigger because of these products. So in a way, we have to make technology ours, maybe slave is the right word, but we have to have technology as our helper rather than becoming a helper to technology. So yes, in a way, I believe that the future looks highly optimistic. Those are, I'm glad to know those are exactly your thoughts.
Yeah,
Uh,
because you see, chat cannot replace innovation, like what you actually had mentioned. That is, you see,
exactly.
a data science tool is a tool because it requires input, right? So it requires data to be input so that it can learn and relearn, and then it can actually goes out into the information that we want. So chat is actually collecting information from everyone at the moment to actually try as much to learn and then come up with the output. But then chat is nice as a tool. However, there's actually a question on, this is nothing about chat. Chat is great. But then there are actually some people who actually just want to, the innovation people, they're saying that, can we actually incorporate chat into our product? I mean, that's actually a good idea. But then the thing now is that the thing that they when incorporate into their product, they can actually earn money out of it. But then I was actually asking them this question: what if chat tries to charge an amount that is too much for you to actually cover back the expenses that you are charging your client? What will happen?
Right.
Do you have
Like,
a plan? because your chat code is actually so deeply embedded inside the source code. Do you have a plan B to actually use another way to still earn money from your innovation without actually chat costing too much to you? And we are also talking about a realistic idea that is some countries are already banning Italy, right?
yeah.
So banning chat. So does it mean that your innovation will slowly also be banned in some countries as well because of political reasons? I mean, chat is a great tool. I don't actually disagree on that. But you have to pay for it because when chat runs, someone actually was telling me that she is actually doing a very good chatbot for a real estate industry, right? But then she says that she's very careful about using the chatbot to actually run real time because it will cost money. So she was actually asking me, how much do you think chat cost? And how much money do you think chat is burning the investor? So when you actually look at it, she says something like, she shared a video. She shared a video before. Someone estimated to be 3 million per day. Yeah.
Per day.
So investor is not going to actually burn this money without a reason. All right. So chat is going to actually earn it back. All right. So then when you actually see it this way, when data science become business, it is actually a different layer altogether. So yes, project is fun, blueprint is fun, and you know, coding is fun, modeling is fun. But then we want to actually make it in a dollars and cents kind of setup. How much are we actually earning and how much are we costing from that product that we actually make? Everything becomes really rather scary.
Right. They're going to look into how they're going to monetize it. So they have started to charge, but you know, there will have to be other ways because spending on infrastructure and everything is going to become quite big as more and more people use it. So
yeah. I hope AI don't come and sue me, but I'm just actually telling the truth.
No, they won't.
Everything is business. Yeah.
Yeah, everything is business. You know, the people who are running it are not getting any donation money. You know, they have to put that money into their infrastructure. So yes, of course, they have to get money. Okay, Jarrod, you know, really nice talking to you, and I hope we could, you know, we got to know a lot from you, and I hope we could do another podcast maybe like down the line where we could like dig deep into, you know, much deeper things. And it's like very fun talking to you. But before going, I want to like, you know, if what do you think the future holds maybe? And the second thing maybe, you know, as signing off notes, there are a whole lot of people who want to come into data science, and they want to like know how the field is becoming bigger around the world, around the globe, Singapore, India, US, Europe, everywhere. So what would be your, you come from a very long history of data science. What would be you've seen everything going out. What would you suggest them? What would be your suggestion?
Well, in short, learn statistics. That's what I can tell them. When they open the data, the first thing they see is actually statistics really. So yeah.
Great. Learn statistics really, really well.
Yeah.
And I believe one more thing that they can add to their personality is like be naturally curious about how things run around the world and how things are made. So if they know that, they can combine both of them and come out with really great results.
Not only that is then once they actually learn statistics, the other thing that they should do is join a company that has mature tech stack, right? So they understand how a tech stack actually is running. Then when they want to actually go into manager level, try to actually immerse themselves into how data science become business. This is a totally different field altogether. Then do not actually reject jobs. I mean, this is going to be risky. It's not for everyone. There are actually some jobs out there that doesn't actually have any idea of what data science looks like. So they will just actually hire someone blindly and then without any resource given to him. No data, no software, no hardware, no server, nothing. Right? It is a very scary job because it's actually have a very high risk of being fired, of the person being fired. If you dare to actually take up this challenge, do this kind of job, it's because it will actually grind you up to actually be able to build up a department from scratch. But this is a very scary job and very risky as well. If you have the skill of being able to build up a department from scratch without any resource, which means without resource, you are able to actually eventually come up with a machine learning model. You're on the way to actually become an innovator that is able to set up a department from scratch. Make sense? Then when the time comes, when an MNC approach you and say, hey, look, I want you to actually lead a department. I want you to actually come up with something for me. Then at least then you are actually able to not start from scratch. You are someone who had that experience already. And for those fresh joiner, please do not start off as a data scientist because as a data scientist, there's too much attention gain and everyone will start looking at that person. Rather start off as a data analyst first so that you won't have that much attention. You can actually slowly look into data, explore your codes, explore your methods and models. And when the time comes, you already have that experience. Then you can consider yourself moving into a data scientist role. Yeah.
Great. Grow in steps. Being an analyst first and then into scientist.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that analyst is lower than a data scientist. I'm just saying that because this is actually how the corporate world weirdly thinks that a data scientist has much more attention than a data analyst.
Exactly. It's just the word that scientist and analyst comes up with. Okay.
What our company do is that we are actually an outsourcing company. And basically what happened is that my boss, Brian, the CEO, actually says that, hey, look, let's actually start a data science department. That's actually where they bring Jarrod in. Because I have actually done 2 data science departments from scratch last time. So that's why I can actually assume this role. And then he was actually asking me on first day, Jarrod, so how do we profit? What do we sell? And then I actually innovate the entire 15 data science product for him. So basically, this is actually some of the companies that we have overseas, some of our offices. And yes, we have our office in Clark. This was actually our old office. Now it's actually been remodeled into something better, which is a co-working space because of COVID. So we changed the way that we work. We used to actually have a company nurse and a clinic inside. That's actually a bit about me. So 17 years, actually this is the 18th year now. I know nice software actually, but I don't actually learn software from start. I actually concentrate on learning statistics and using unique picking up unique ways of solving business problem, and the nice software come along the way. So I want people to understand that their focus should be learning statistics and picking up unique ways of solving business issues. And then this is actually the some of the profession that I have, professional organization membership. So this is actually me giving a talk at Alibaba, right? Those are the merchants from Alibaba. And then I was actually giving speech at A-Star as well. These are actually some of the projects that I've done in the past. And yes, I have helped government sector. I actually was involved in military science as well. So someone in military was saying that Jarrod, once a military scientist, always a military scientist. That's what he told me. So I never dare to join CAGO or whatever. So I'm pretty under the radar. I hope you won't even find me in some of the data science public forum as well, because they really say, the colonel say that is, once a military scientist, you're always a military scientist. So I help a few telco as well, Fortune 500 ones. So I built DSS Customer Observer, and well, this is actually something like my pipeline. So it looks like that. So this is SPSS modeler. So one dot is actually a code inside, and then this is actually 10 pictures together. All of them link up on end-to-end, from the raw data to cleaning all the way up to the machine learning model. This is my URL and ad browsing prediction model. So this is actually how a machine learning model look like. So someone who is a data scientist will be familiar with this one. This is around like 10 pages. This is one of the profiling model. And then we bring result. That is, my client set up a shop to actually run my machine learning model, and my client customer likes it as well. And then basically, this is actually some of my earnings. But then the earnings come here in a summary manner. That is, the company sent out 8.5 million, earn back 40K. I send out 88K email, earn back 74K. This is my machine learning model. Ultimately, I increased the sales from this much to $2. I've actually reduced from 8 million to this much of email. I have also increased the sales figure. I have actually increased the sales per email sent out, which is just basically this divided by this. So these are done on 20K customer. I was asking the management, what happened if you actually give me 2 million customers instead of 20K? I literally asked that guy, the CEO, does he want to retire on the spot? So basically, one thing about my background, I'm also a catastrophic data scientist. I mean, this is actually something which my friend actually jokingly said, Jarrod, you're actually suited for very extreme economical situation. Why? Because during my days in an e-commerce shop, what happened is that during Thai protest period, right? This is the start of Thai protest period. 9,000 emails sent out, earning 107K back. And then this is actually twice of what they actually earn in a month using 8.5 million. So they do it in a month, I do it in 2 weeks. So they said, Jarrod, well done. That time, the client was saying, how do you do it? Even in extreme economical situation, you can still actually earn money with your machine learning model. And that actually brings that skill to pre-COVID to COVID to post-lockdown in my current client as well. So I lead my client through, which is a retail and e-commerce client, through COVID situation to post-lockdown. They actually know who to send to, what kind of products to send to them, and how to communicate with them as well. So this is actually some of the things that I've done. And this is actually a view of my model. You can see that pre-COVID to COVID is still earning, and then post-lockdown, it's actually still the earning as well. So this is actually our premium randomly selected versus a random marketing that is actually sent out. So this actually shows that the customers are actually being carried from pre-COVID to COVID to post-lockdown. So yes, then my friends say, hey, look, you're officially a catastrophic data scientist now. So this is actually some of our charge. Basically, if you are interested, let me know. I'm actually happy to actually share with you what I do for my data science product, DSS Customer Observer. Well, thank you so much for this podcast. And like what you say, if you are interested, we can actually discuss about some other topics on data science as well. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be really glad to hear that, because this was just a gist of something, but we want to dig deeper, and we want to. So I hope we come up with a new podcast, maybe in next month, or very soon, and we can discuss things much deeper. I'll come out with really good questions for you.
Sure.
So right, nice meeting you, Jarrod, and
Nice
let's be
meeting you.
connected. Let's be connected. Let's keep on discussing things together, right?